Pepper Persley makes her return. Need I say more? You are Locked On Women's Basketball.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, hi, everyone, and happy Thursday to you. I'm Howard Megdal, founder and editor of The Next. You can follow our work over there at The Next Hoops on Twitter or Instagram, or go to thenexthoops.com. And of course, we are here every weekday at Locked On Women's Basketball, at Locked On WBB on Twitter. And I am very excited to be sharing with you Pepper Persley's latest. It is with Chiene Joy Jones, who created Grow Our Game, a very important pipeline to women's basketball for young girls in New York City. So they just had a great conversation, and we're going to share it with you. We appreciate you making Locked On Women's Basketball your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts, so make sure you subscribe, rate, and review us. Locked On Women's Basketball is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all your betting stats and sports info. Find all the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including this year's basketball playoffs and the start of Major League Baseball. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information, from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. Critically, from my view, it is a place where you can get women's sports odds as well. While I am not looking to wager myself, I know the larger context here, which is that when there are more eyes on the women's game grows as a result of it. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. Bet online, where the game starts. So without further ado, I'm going to send you over to Pepper's wonderful conversation with Chiene. Please enjoy.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the pod. I'm here with Chiene Joy Jones, who is the founder of Grow Our Game, a program I have been lucky enough to be a part of. So, hi, Coach. How's it going? Super excited to have you.
Pepper, how are you doing? I'm just so amazed with your hard work. It's just really, it does not go unnoticed. I just want you to know that. It doesn't go unnoticed. Continue grinding, continue working, continue balancing, right? Your career and your student and your athlete portion. I don't think too many kids could actually say that they're following their purpose right now and doing their profession and pursuing their career. So amazing job. Seriously, amazing job.
Yeah, I love this because I get to interview people like you. All right, let's dive right in. Tell us about Grow Our Game. Walk us through the process of founding Grow Our Game and what's your mission?
So I've been coaching girls basketball for the last 18 years, right? I know I maybe don't look as old as I really am, but next month I actually turned 40, right? And so I was lucky enough to start my coaching career at New York University. I was their first assistant women's basketball coach for 4 years. And so during that period, I also received an opportunity to get involved in grassroots girls basketball at Riverside Church. It was a great experience. Again, after coaching at NYU, I continued to, again, pursue my own personal career as an athletics administrator. And so went from working for the vice president at NYU to then working as an athletics director at the Harlem Children's Zone. Now I'm actually a manager over at Riverbank State Park, which is very, very interesting because it gives me the time and flexibility to pursue my passion, right, for empowering young girls through sport. And so after coaching at Riverside Church, I ended up continuing on to the Gauchos. And during my time with the Gauchos, I started noticing very, very, very clear issue in New York City girls basketball. And that was that there weren't enough people teaching the game at a much younger age, right? You saw young girls learning from their parents, or maybe learning from an uncle who used to play basketball, or maybe even a mother, right? Who played basketball, which again is also pretty amazing that you're starting to see more and more mothers, right, that are involved in the game now for younger girls. But, you know, there wasn't anything that was necessarily available exclusively for girls, specifically young girls, and not necessarily ran by women either, right? Like there's so many programs here in New York City, but many of them, in fact, are ran by men. I mean, I can only think about a handful of programs that are run, exclusively by women for young girls. Ladies Who Hoop is definitely one of them. So shout out to Amber Batchelor. But, again, when I thought about that, it kind of was bothering me because I knew the path that the girls that I currently, that I was having, right, at Gauchos, and they were on a very different path. Like they were clearly scholarship athletes, whether that was Division 1, 2, or 3, but again, lucky enough for me, 100% of them, they all continued on to Division 1 basketball programs. So over the time, again, with the Gauchos, I realized I want to do something a little bit more impactful and meaningful and actually more challenging. And that's kind of how Grow Our Game started. So we've been around now. This is year 4, and we're a certified non-for-profit. And I think the bigger piece, Pepper, that's also really important is that programs like this around the country, it's really easy to charge families, right? And so I knew that for Grow Our Game here in New York City, I had no desire of charging families not $1 for the time that they brought their daughters into our spaces. And so again, Grow Our Game, not only obviously, our mission is to empower young girls to become fierce, amazing leaders, right? So there's a transaction when you think about it with respect to basketball and how you're going to transform almost, I can't even say transaction, it's like this transformation with our girls when it comes to basketball, but there's also this transformation for them to become confident, passionate leaders, right? And so how could we make that happen with a $0 price tag, right? And it comes off the strength and the time and the love by many of our coaches who in fact support for free. And we're not necessarily at the model yet where we can even pay myself, right? I don't even pay myself to run the program. It's very important that all of those funds are going into our program and into our families.
Yeah, and you talk about just how because not even all girls who grow up playing sports or basketball become basketball players. So just like you mentioned, like the leadership skills that sports builds in everybody, but especially for girls, like is really important. So that's why the work you're doing is so key.
Thanks, Pepper.
Yeah, of course. All right. You always have girls repeat, and I know this well. I'm strong, I'm smart, I'm beautiful, and I can do anything after practices or workouts, any of that. Why is it important to you to make sure that they feel affirmed?
So I think that there's something that happens as those girls come inside of our spaces, right? And so even before our affirmations, in the very, very beginning, we do our sisterhood introductions, right? So it's giving them a valid space to say their names, to understand the importance of how to pronounce their names, and to also understand the importance of like name that they may prefer to actually go by while they're doing the workouts, right? Again, as this becomes a society where we need to be very mindful of gender norms and identities, I think that also the bigger piece too is making sure that we're giving these young girls that space to be themselves. So the sisterhood affirmations actually happen at the very, very tail end of our workouts. And again, those affirmations are something to make you feel that you own this space, but also that you can pursue anything that you want to do when you leave this space, right? That there's a carryover with that power that you had, not only on the court, but also off the court. So it's definitely something that I came up with before we actually had our first ever session. I was just kind of like, what would it be crazy to actually recite certain affirmations at the end, very similar to almost when you go to church, very similar to when you go to say Girl Scouts and you do your Girl Scout creed, right? On my honor, I will try to serve God and my country to help people when in need and to live by the Girl Scout law. I'm a former Girl Scout. So those things that you actually learn how to recite. And again, even in church, right? You'll learn certain creeds. And it's almost like this call and repeat action, very, very similar to how I drew that idea for Grow Our Game. And it's a hit. Parents love it. Parents love it. The girls love it. And they actually take ownership on it. And I love that because, I don't want to be the one just reciting and you repeating what I say. I want you to feel empowered to say that yourself and have the rest of the girls repeat it, right? So again, when we talk about these leadership skills, it's almost happening, but in almost like a fun Girl Scouts magical way. And again, it's pretty special.
Yeah, I always loved that. It always made me feel empowered, and I know it did for all of the other girls there. And now getting on to you a little bit more. I know you were in a commercial for Nike's "You Can't Stop Our Voice" campaign. What was it like to have Nike highlight you and appreciate you?
Pepper, it's so interesting. The last 3 consecutive years, I've actually been featured in campaigns, whether that was through Nike or Jordan Brand. My final year at the Harlem Children's Zone, we were actually on billboards all around New York City, which was kind of crazy to think about. We were Jordan Wings program, and so they were looking for girls basketball players, and the organization already knew who to call me up because we were doing girls basketball programming for girls from 3rd grade all the way up to 12th grade. And so that was a very, very special opportunity. And then again, the Nike You Can't Stop Us campaign was also very, very special because it was actually an opportunity for me to feature women that were so impactful in my life. So if you actually look at the tail end of that commercial, you'll see a woman with really, really long hair, fair skin. That was actually my high school girls basketball coach, Carla Nasso, right? There was another woman with curly, short hair and glasses. That was actually one of my mentors and former bosses who had just finished battling stage 3 breast cancer. So, and again, my college coach, Janice Quinn, was unable to attend because she was, managing some personal health issues as well. But the women that were in it, the older women that were in it, were women that actually impacted my life in such a way that I needed to have them in that space to honor them. And so that campaign, that commercial specifically, meant so much to me because it was the first time that I actually was able to give my flowers to those women. And so it was really, really beautiful. And again, Damani Tucker, Raina Scott was also in it. Some of the younger girls that participated in Grow Our Game were in it. We couldn't have everyone in it because it was still like COVID, right? Like I say COVID because we're still in COVID, but it was a little crazier back then with the numbers. So again, we couldn't have everyone, but it was just beautiful and it was so meaningful. And the director and even just the staff there were fantastic. Even Marcus Paul, like, he's a celebrity stylist. He was there. He did the styling for the actual commercial. So it was amazing. It was amazing. It was such a blessing. And it's really cool to still be with the Nike team. They actually have picked us up for the next 2 years. I don't think I've ever officially announced that. But we're with them for the next 2 years in a campaign that they're co-sponsoring with Laureus. And so it's pretty special. It's a great time. It's a great time for Grow Our Game. I feel like every quarter, every month, there's always something to celebrate. And so that's just the type of momentum we want to keep going.
Yeah, it's really awesome to see how much attention the program is really getting. It's awesome. All right, and then just one more accolade of yours I wanted to ask you about. What does it mean to you to have been honored as the 2020 Junior Next Coach of the Year?
Oh my God. So that honor was so incredible because it was literally at the kind of cusp of when we went from normalcy into lockdown, right? I remember this literally was a week before we were on the court from Madison Square Garden celebrating this award. And literally the following week, we were locked in our homes, right? For like weeks, almost like a month and a half. It was very interesting times, but that meant so much because literally the entire world went from being like a very active kind of society to actually depending so much on these type of platforms, right? Digital platforms to be able to communicate, digital platforms to actually work out. It was very interesting, right? It was very, very interesting times, but it also gave a lot of visibility for the program during that time. It's still literally a partnership that continues to build and grow and strengthen not only their Coach of the Year platform, but the Grow Our Game platform as well, right? It's definitely a mutual partnership relationship. And I'm really, really blessed to not only be an affiliate for the Junior Next program, but definitely for them to continue to amplify the great work that we do with girls that grow our game. Because remember, the Knicks don't even have the New York Liberty, right? So why would they care to want to amplify and show the importance for women's sports? It really just shows that they actually care about the ecosystem, right? Where it's not just exclusively only about boys, but they actually care about kids, right? They care about people. And that means a lot too. We're still working on that New York Liberty partnership. We're still working on it, but it's nice to know that the Knicks have really stepped up in a way to amplify the work that we're doing.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you mentioned the Liberty a little bit. I know you're a big fan of the Liberty and often take your players and grow our game to games. What excites you most about the 2022 Liberty team?
Oh my God, what excites me so much, Asia Durr is back. So happy about that. We have Stephanie Dolson, who, that I can't even imagine how powerful that is, right? Because I believe she's from New York, from Long Island, right? She played with the Long Island. I want to say that it was the Renegades or the Silver Bullets. I forget which program she played for before she, But anyways, yeah, I think it's amazing. Obviously, we have Nija back, which is huge. Dee Dee Richards is back. Michaela's back. I feel like the program is going in a great direction, right? Obviously, we have a new coach, which I'm really excited to have her too, because she is about her business. But I'm just super excited. I'm a Liberty fan. I love taking the girls, like you said. I myself am actually a season ticket holder. Last year was the first year I was ever able to pursue that. That meant a lot for me. I remember being a young kid, even back in '97, right? When the Liberty first started over at MSG, and getting free tickets, and how that experience was so important to me as a young girls basketball player. And so being able to now be in a position where monetarily I could support the New York Liberty in a way that ultimately basically shows the highest possible monetary form of flattery, right? Is just becoming a season ticket holder. It's something that means a lot to me, right? And so that was pure, that was genuine, that was intentional, because I really want to support what, meant so much to me growing up.
Yeah, that's really powerful. I love that. And the Liberty are going to be a really great team this year. I'm super excited.
I mean, I still get scared of the Phoenix Mercury. They're stacked again, right? And obviously free Brittany Griner. I don't know if this is the platform to do such, Pepper, but I definitely do want to actually bring visibility to that regardless. Still very, very, very important. But, we have Phoenix Mercury. We have the Aces. They're stacked. We have Minnesota, which is...
There are a lot of really scary teams.
Yeah, there's a lot of scary teams, but I think that we're the young scary team. So we're going to catch those wins that people think that on paper we're not going to get, right? So I'm really excited about that. And again, I'm so excited about cheering them on May 7th. Those games, it's I end up losing my voice. So then I have to be careful because I have workouts the next morning with the girls. So I'm lose my voice too much this season.
All right, one last question for you. How can people contribute to grow our game?
Oh my God, there's so many ways, right? And there's easy ways. People think that contributing, Pepper, is just monetary, financial contribution. That is not the case, right? Outside from giving money to the program, you can give so many other things, right? Give us a follow on Instagram, grow our game, right? Check us out on our website. There is a portal where you can actually donate. You could also earmark your time, right? So we do have a vetting process for volunteers, but if you're interested in volunteering and giving your time, we also have that on our website, growourgame.org. Or you could even send me a message directly through our question portal on our website. There's also opportunities of giving gear, right? There's also opportunities of giving space, because we know that while New York City is probably one of the top cities that have gyms and outdoor basketball courts, during the fall and winter time, it is the Hunger Games to try to find indoor basketball courts here in New York City for free. for girls to be able to use, right? So, again, there's that piece, and again, leveling up, because there also are corporations. If you want to be a sponsor for Grow Our Game, again, we're a certified 501c3. There's also a vetting process for us to actually say yes, because, you just have to kind of be careful with opportunities. Not every single opportunity is a great opportunity or a good fit, right? But at the end of the day, there's so many different ways. Reposting the work that we do. Repost and share. We had a great turnout 2 weekends ago over at Gersh Park. The WNBA reposted our post, right? Obviously, we were selected for being the CBO that would actually host their junior NBA Her Time to Play clinic, right? So it ended up being a Grow Our Game clinic embedded with partnership of the Her Time to Play program, which was awesome. But the WNBA reposted that. That's incredible. That gave us the visibility and the validity that we needed to make sure that we had 35 girls show up on a pretty chilly Saturday to celebrate the WNBA draft. So again, there's definitely ways of supporting outside from just money. And again, feel free to follow us on Instagram, Grow Our Game. Follow us on Twitter, Grow Our Game NY. And you can also check us out on our website, growourgame.org. So, I appreciate that, Pepper. Thank you so much for even adding that as a question, or you already had that as your question. I know you're so prepared. But that also means a lot too, because sometimes, we have these interviews and folks don't know the next step, right? Well, how can I get involved? How can I support? This sounds like a great program. So thank you, Pepper. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And I hope everybody listening can contribute in a tiny way or a big way. So thank you for everything that you're doing, Coach. I really appreciate everything.
Pepper, thank you. And again, shout out to your parents for making sure that they're giving you space to pursue your career. That means so, so much. And again, shout out to our Grow Our Game families. And Pepper, shout out to you for just being you, right? Just be you, be true to yourself, and don't let anybody try to change who you are, right? That's really important too.
All right, thank you to Chiene Joy Jones for your time, and shout out to Grow Our Game again. As always, you can follow me on Instagram at Pepper Persley and on Twitter at Team Persley. And that's all for today's episode.
I'm sure you enjoyed that as much as I did. Again, Howard Megdal, founder and editor of The Next, back with you. Thank you so much for listening. As a reminder, there is also a men's league that plays basketball. Locked On NBA covers it. Make that your second listen of the day. From the first jump ball of the play-in tournament to the last possession of the finals, Locked On experts take you deep inside the NBA playoffs with insight and analysis affecting all 30 teams. It is absolutely a luxury that we have so many amazing hosts, some of whom even work over at Locked On Women's Basketball as well. It's the great Tony East, who is out covering the Pacers in the NBA and the Fever for the WNBA. One basketball, everybody. Locked On NBA. Your first listen, Locked On Women's Basketball. Your second listen, Locked On NBA. And a reminder, Locked On Women's Basketball is brought to you by Built Bar, specifically Built Bar's amazing protein-infused marshmallow puffs made with 100% real chocolate, 130 calories, 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. So many delicious flavors. So go to Built.com and use promo code LOCKED15, that's LOCKED15, and get 15% off your order. That's promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. As always, tell them Grandma Myrna sent you. Make sure you tune in tomorrow to Locked On Women's Basketball. We got Carly Thibault-Dudanis, new head coach at Fairfield. It was a great conversation. You're going to love it. Until then, I'm Howard Megdal, wishing you a wonderful and women's basketball infused Thursday.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.